Started. Could everyone please rise while we recite the council prayer? Today, as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be good for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Caulfield.
Present.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Here.
Councilor Lenzi.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercier.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The chair would like to recognize Councilor James Milanazzo and also Councilor William Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Denise Lawrence. Denise Lawrence passed away a week ago yesterday at the very young age of 45 years old. I knew Denise during my years at the Lowell Housing Authority. Denise worked for 22 years at the Merrimack Valley Legal Services as a paralegal. She was very compassionate about her job. She worked for the residents of the Lowell Housing Authority in a very fair way. She loved the city. She loved the people that she represented. She and her husband would have been married 22 years this weekend, August 30th. And she leaves behind a couple of stepchildren, and she just leaves behind a lot of wonderful friends. I went to the Mass on Saturday, and I have to tell you, the outpouring of love and emotion at the Immaculate Conception was really, really something to behold. And like I said, she was really someone that loved this city. She also, by the way, was a volunteer at the New England Quilt Museum. She was an avid quilter. But I have to tell you that Denise was a paraplegic. She was in a wheelchair, but she did not let that in any way. It certainly never came across as being a burden to her, but she did work on behalf of the Travis Roy Foundation. She also worked very diligently in getting the courthouse, as an example, to be more handicapped accessible. So she will be truly missed, and I can speak on behalf of the Housing Authority residents. She did a wonderful job representing their interests. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor William Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for two people, both pillars in the Sacred Heart Church and Sacred Heart Parish, Sacred Heart School communities. First, Paul Durkin, who's survived by his wife Connie, 2 children, Connie and Mike. Mr. Durkin was a long-time resident of the city, lived on Andrews Street in Lowell, was a former semi-professional baseball player, and worked at Notini's for many, many years. I know he spent a lot of time when I was young, encouraging Little League players and keeping up with the local sports pages and which kids were doing what, and was of constant interest to him, and he always had an encouraging word to his paper boy, of which I was one, and his neighbors and kids in the neighborhood, and he'll be truly missed. The other moment of silence for Peg Bassett, who taught for many years at the Sacred Heart School, was my 3rd grade teacher, also a longtime resident of the Sacred Heart area. Her daughter, Anne Bienvenu, still lives in the city, and she's survived by a very loving and supportive family as well. Both of them made tremendous contributions to the city and that neighborhood and church in particular, and they will be truly missed.
May we all stand in a moment of silence with darkened chambers for these 3 outstanding citizens of our city. Thank you. May they rest in peace. Thanks, Andy. Moving on with the agenda, it is with great pleasure that I ask Valerie Parker of Second World to address the council in regard to the New England Cultural Fest that will be here this weekend, I believe. Valerie?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today, and Miss Rita Mercia, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's not this weekend, it's next weekend.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You scared me. Oh boy, and we are working night and day on this event to just make this a tremendous day for Lowell, for the area, and we are expecting people from all over New England. It is the 5th year, so it is September 6th in downtown Lowell from 2 o'clock until 10, and we'll be featuring all kinds of world music, arts, and crafts for the family. If people want more information about it, they can go on our website. It's second-world.com, and they can download a 2-for-1 discount ticket there. But we definitely want to make this accessible and available to everyone. And we not only involve traditional music, but also contemporary and sort of DJs and large-scale video projections on the buildings. So we have something for everybody at the festival this year. And just briefly, I guess the highlights of the event are that we will have not only world-class music, so from jazz to samba to more contemporary music and traditional performances. We'll also have flamenco music and just world-class performers from all over the area coming down. And we'll also have 70-plus interactive exhibitors, and this is all in the Enterprise Bank parking lot in downtown Lowell. And there's several parking lots, so they're all kind of together, and the perimeter of it will be an art fence made out of boot cotton mill. That will be about 200 feet of art from the local artists, UTEC artists, artists from Philadelphia, from New York City. And we have involvement from people all over the community. So a lot of great things for the kids: face painting, henna. We'll have clowns, storytelling, kids activities. We'll have giveaways by Green Mountain Coffee. All you can drink coffee. If you guys maybe drink coffee here, I think maybe. We'll have Green Mountain Coffee. We'll have also a lot of great chocolate, organic chocolate from a great company called Equal Exchange. And these are just sort of examples of businesses that are ethical businesses that are providing opportunities for people around the world, and then really unique businesses locally too. So we have like a mother-daughter who do recycled fabric purses and fashions, and then we have a fashion show with local designers and also designers from around the world, all coming here to Lowell to showcase the culture and the arts, and that on this day we can make, you know, a better world, a better city, and just go completely over the edge with great edutainment. And so it's an interactive entertainment and education experience. If people want more information, they can go on second-world.com. And samba dancing, salsa dance lessons, jazz, all kinds of music, arts and crafts, great food, Thai food, Indian food, fried dough, all kinds of stuff.
So this will be held downtown.
It will.
September 6th on a
September
Saturday.
6th.
And what time does it start?
Saturday, September 6th from 2 o'clock till 10. Oh, we have our audio visuals.
Here we go.
Yes,
Okay.
we do. 2 o'clock till 10 in downtown Lowell. And it has evolved to become the nation's premier fair trade festival, all about ethical fashion and art, businesses that help people basically, and local artists meeting global sort of opportunities. So we got world music, interactive videos all over the buildings. We're very happy to have involvement from Enterprise Bank in the city of Lowell. Just been tremendous, and all of your support in the community has been beautiful. This is the 5th annual, and we're doing it with all volunteers, and we're working day and night, so
Okay.
2 weeks away.
Thank you very much for your hard work, your dedication. We will be there to enjoy the festival. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Moving on with the agenda, and if I might take something out of sequence, it involves the subcommittee, economic subcommittee, and I would recognize Councilor James Milanazzo if you want to give that
Yes.
subcommittee
Sure.
report. then we
Thank
can
you,
follow through.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could ask for a motion to take item number 17,
Yes.
which has to do with the lease between New Bliss Incorporated and the city of Lowell regarding the space over at the early garage. So if we can have that as a motion to take that out of order.
Motion to take that out of sequence.
I'll second.
Seconded by
Sure.
Councilor Alcazar. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to my colleagues. At 5:30 this evening, the Economic Development Subcommittee did meet to review the lease that's in the packet this evening. Councilor William Martin, Councilor Michael Lenzi, and Councilor Alan Kazanjian and myself did meet with City Manager Lynch, Assistant City Manager Adam Bagke. We also had representatives from the New Bliss Incorporated. In fact, they're here with us this evening. Alvaro Garcia, as well as Ann and Ronald Brogan are here, and we certainly appreciate them being here. We did, as I mentioned, meet at 5:30. Again, we had some questions relative to the lease, but I think at the end of the day, I'm happy to report that the subcommittee did vote unanimously to recommend to the full council approving the lease. This was the second meeting of the subcommittee. We met 2 weeks ago, and again, we did have questions which the administration brought answers back to us this evening, and we do feel that it's really a win-win for the city relative to being having the first tenant go into the space. We do have representatives from the Edge Group and Attorney Eliades, who represents the tenants here this evening. So again, just by way of suggestion, if the Edge Group wants to give a brief report as to where we are at this particular point in time, and then if any of my colleagues have any other questions, we can certainly do that. But I know that they're prepared to give a brief presentation before we actually bring the lease for a formal vote. So, that being said, if Attorney Eliades wants to go to the microphone and. Again, in your packet, you do have a copy of the lease. It's for 5 years, commencing November 15th, 2008. And as I said, we did have a number of comments during our subcommittee hearings, but they were all answered, questions, they were all answered satisfactorily. Attorney Eliades?
For the record, George, Mr. Mayor, Your Honor, George C. Eliades, Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. And I'm here with the folks who are prospective lessees of the premises at Middlesex Street, and I'd love to introduce them to everybody. From right to left, I'll start with the lady, is Ann Brogan, and her husband, Ronnie, and their partner, Irvi Garcia. Great combination, that Mexican-Irish combination, and that's what they're going to have for a restaurant here. I don't have a lot to say except that we said it all, so to speak, in the subcommittee hearing, and it was very well covered, I thought. These folks have already been, I think the critical thing is they've already been successful in two restaurants of a very similar ilk in very similar cities to Lowell, in areas that were needed some renewal and needed some action, and some good restaurateurs, and they went in on each occasion, and they've had very successful places and doing a great job. The combination is great. It's been very successful now in a lot of other places, and I guess what I'd like to do, I'll be willing to answer any questions anyone might have, but I think we had a long, hard series of negotiations over the lease, and Adam and his folks did a great job on their side, and we appreciate all the efforts and the administration. There was give and take, like there was in everything. Was it perfect? Was it all for the city? No. Was it all for my clients? Unfortunately, no. We tried our hardest, but we think we have a great deal. The most important thing is that they're ready to go and go forward. In the subcommittee meeting, I let the two guys talk, and I think it's time for Ann to say something. So maybe she'd just like to tell everybody how excited they are about coming to the city, and she's going to kill me for this.
Welcome.
Thank you, George. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you for having us. We're very excited to bring our establishment to Lowell. We think, or we're actually confident that we can bring an establishment that you'll be excited to bring your friends and family. We hope to be an asset to the community. And if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them.
Thank you. I think it's important to note, if I could, Mr. Mayor, that they will be spending a few $100,000 in tenant fit-up on the space, and we are also working through the administration on providing them grant funds to do some improvements that will be needed, that the city would have been spending these funds anyway, and we're going to be doing that as part of a jobs program to create jobs in that neighborhood, if you will. So, like I said earlier, in my opinion, it's a win-win. It's very important to get the first tenant in that building, and I know that the Edge Group, working with the administration, they have other prospective tenants that the subcommittee will be reviewing in the not-too-distant future. So, report of progress.
I might add that it was an excellent subcommittee meeting and a wonderful presentation. And I think it's a wonderful union between the city and these new businesses we're having in Lowell.
We
And
think
as-
so too, Mr.
And
Mayor.
as Councilor Milonazo indicated,
Will.
it's a domino effect, because once we lease that one unit out, I think it's going to be a domino effect. So, Councilor Kazanjian and Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mayor. Last two meetings were very productive. We got a lot of information on the garage and about the leases, and like I stated earlier, it's always hardest to be the first one, and I give them it's a lot of courage, and I give them a lot of credit. I'm looking forward for the city to work with them, and wish them all the luck, and let's hope it works in the future for both of us. Thanks.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As everyone knows, Lowell is very, very rich in ethnic diversity, and if this restaurant isn't proof of that, I don't know what to say, but I want to thank everyone here for taking a chance with Lowell. You know, this is something new, a restaurant in a garage. It's a chance. You're taking a very big chance, so I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for putting your faith in this city. I want you to succeed. I hope that we can help you, and if this is some way that we can do that, and filling our spaces in the garage a little at a time, I move approval. Thank you.
Why don't I read, Councilor Lindsay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to reiterate some of those sentiments, but I think as well as the establishment, we're all taking a chance, and we're all in this together. I think that the city is going to be a very good landlord, and it is certainly a partnership that we're looking forward to, and terrific success, and we'll be backing the restaurant 100%. So glad to have them here.
Councilor Martin, who's also a member of that subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was unanimously approved at the subcommittee, and I don't want to repeat everything that was said there, but I think it is important to note that these folks have experience in this industry. Ann and Ron Brogan and Everardo Garcia, if I'm pronouncing that name right, have been in business now in two ventures, one for 10 years, one for 8 years, one in downtown Salem, one in downtown Malden, both in the central business district. Those ventures have proven successful. I know Mr. Garcia is the manager of one of them, and he is going to be the manager of this one. Also, two of them are immigrants to this country, one from Ireland and one from Mexico, and I think we have a rich tradition here in the city of being welcoming to people from other countries, and I think they've embraced our heritage, and we're certainly hopeful that this partnership gets off to a good start. Certainly nothing is without risk, but I think it's important for the public to know that we've looked hard for people with experience in this field, and we found them, and they are making a significant financial commitment to this venture as well. So I think it speaks well to the city that we can attract quality restaurateurs like the people we have here, and I wish them much success in the years to come.
Councilor Ahmed Mercia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I concur with everything that's been said. I also want to include a commendation to the Edge Group for working hard to get something very classy. An awful lot of people in this city didn't think anything would be there. But knowing the Edge Group, I knew that something would come there and would be really classy to the city. This is a great beginning, and it is only the beginning. So I also want to include my commendations to the Edge Group.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important to thank all the people who are involved, the administration, DPD, and the Edge Group. I think that everybody's taken some heat in terms of, you know, getting tenants in that, fill that garage up, take whatever you can get. Something's better than nothing, and there was a good plan put in place, and I think it's important that the players have stuck to it, and we see now we have the first quality tenant, and I think that if we stick to that, we'll get more, and then this thing is it's gonna pay off. But I want to congratulate everybody involved, and good job.
Anyone else like to speak before I read the vote and ask for anyone else like to speak? Okay. I just want to briefly say that I want to echo Councilor Broderick's feelings and everyone, the manager, DPD, the Edge Group, Mr. Alides, and our new tenants. We want to wish you the best, and we haven't voted on it yet, but we want to wish you the best. We know you'll be successful, and welcome to our city as a new business, and we'll be there to help you and support you. I'm going to read the vote. Authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to enter a lease agreement with Nicholas Incorporated, Garcia Brogan, for property located at Unit 5, 135 Middlesex Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, in the Edward J. Early Parking Garage. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Full reading has been waived. Second reading by title. Authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to enter a lease agreement with Nublis Incorporated, Garcia Brogan, for property located at Unit 5, 135 Middlesex Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, in the Edward J. Early Parking Garage. If there's no more further discussion or debate, I'll ask for a roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Congratulations.
Hopefully, we'll see you all at the grand opening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. All in favor of accepting the minutes and place them on file, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes have been accepted and placed on file. Moving on with the agenda. Unfinished business. To take by eminent domain and to fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Westview Road extension and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Second reading by title. To take by eminent domain and to fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Westview Road extension and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Any discussion, any debate on this particular issue?
Move approval.
Councilor,
I'm voting present on that. I love it. Yeah.
Councilor Kazanjian will be voting present.
I'm going to vote present as well.
Councilor Milonazo will be voting present. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian. Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Present.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
7 yeas, 2 present.
The second article on the unfinished business. Pole location, public hearing, National Grid to place one pole, Andover Street. Refer to the wire. A public hearing, and what's that date, Richard? Oh, sorry. Okay, here you go.
Hi,
No public.
Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid. We're asking the city of Lowell for permission to install one pole on Andover Street. Purpose of this pole is to serve house being refurbished at 396 Andover Street.
Anyone else in favor? In favor? In favor of this article on the public hearing? Anyone in favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone in opposition? In opposition? Manager Lynch?
Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification. The city has an outstanding request with National Grid to move a pole at the intersection of Plain and Chelmsford Street, and that's been in place now for about 2 years. It's necessary for the reconstruction project that's taking place at that intersection. Obviously that's a priority issue for the city so that we can complete that project. Based upon that, the administration would ask that the City Council table this until that pole on Plain, Chelmsford, and Powell has been moved.
Request from Manager Lynch to postpone this.
So moved.
Move in favor by Counsel Broderick.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Counsel Kazanjian. All in favor of postponing this article that's before us, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? It's been delayed and postponed.
Could you tell me what the number of that pole is, so I'll be sure to get it?
I don't have that. We'll get that to you in the morning, though.
Okay, but it's at the corner of Plain and...
It's at the, it's right in front of the church at the Plain, Chelmsford, and Powell intersection. You can coordinate that through the city
Sure.
engineer's office. That would be great.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. That's so...
I
Counsel
would
Ahmed?
just like to add that I hope this is the beginning of holding them their feet to the fire, because there are an awful lot of issues like that that are being ignored by National Grid, whoever they are.
Right.
And I commend the manager for doing it at this time, but I'll be doing this in the future also, if certain poles aren't taken care of by vote of this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for bringing that forward, and I think we started a new trend here. Moving on with the agenda, communications from City Manager Lynch. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our packets this evening, we have a correspondence from the manager regarding the Hamilton Canal District Development Agreement and Master Plan Schedule. And again, just for the viewing audience, I just want to let the public know that the master plan will be submitted to the City Council on September 5th. It's going to be referred to the Economic Development Subcommittee on September 9th. And then between September 10th and the 23rd, we'll have meetings of the subcommittee, and then it will be before the full City Council for discussion and vote on September 23rd. So again, and just keeping the Hamilton Canal project moving forward, I think it's important to let the public know that those are the dates in the next 30 days that we'll be working with in order to meet an October 15th, 2008 financing deadline.
Okay, thank you, Council. Anyone else who would like any communications? I just have a few. Mr. Manager, I appreciate the fact that we can't do anything with the synchronizing of lights at the load overpass. And I understand, Trinity's going to be involved with that, but maybe if we could pick out a few intersections in the city that we could address that aren't synchronized, and I appreciate that if you could do that. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, certainly we intend to move forward with efforts to do a better, to look at all of our lights, to synchronize where we can, and if Councilor Rita Mercier has raised on a number of occasions some other intersections of the city, particularly out on by the old Superior Court building, trying to do something with the timing of that light. We were waiting for the September to come back in so we could do the necessary traffic work. But there's a number of intersections across the city in which the lights need to be adjusted to better handle the flow of traffic. So we intend to do that, and certainly the synchronization.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. And I'd like to bring a communication forward from the Lowell Public School Committee. John Leahy would like to make sure all the crosswalks are painted for all the schools for the children. And also, he wants to know whether the school committee is going to get a report on the Stockloza School, and I said I'll bring that up and ask the manager. And when would that report be coming out, Mr. Manager?
We expect that, we're working with the solicitor's office right now, we expect that report will be released towards the end of this week.
Okay, thank you. Any other communications to this? Councilor Bill Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have in the report, in the groups of reports, something from the Lowell Police Department, a newsletter that the police department has published, and it does have in it the first half of the year crime statistics in it. And, I think overall, there are significant reductions in several important areas, and there are a couple of increases. The one major increase looks to be in motor vehicle theft, which is kind of surprising to me. But I wonder if it's, my suggestion would be this report get referred to the Public Safety Subcommittee, maybe give the police chief come in and, because I think overall it's been a pretty successful summer here as far as violent crime is concerned, and I think it might be worth hearing from the chief as to what the Lowell Police Department is doing, how they've been able to keep certain categories of crime down, and maybe what people should be doing to help the police and keep some of these property crimes down. I think, looks like we've made some very good strides in violent crime, but property crime is up, and that may just be a function of economic times. But I think we should seek the police chief's guidance on that. So I'd make that in the form of a motion.
Form of a motion?
To refer this to the
Okay.
Public Safety Subcommittee.
Seconded by Council Broderick. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. And that the Public Safety Subcommittee will convene a meeting to discuss Council Martin's concerns with Police Chief LaValle. Any other communications you want to discuss? If not, accept the communications and place them on file by Council Elliott, seconded by Council Lindsay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Those communications are accepted and placed on file. We are now going to go into the public hearing. And if I may, if you would support to take this out of sequence, the loan order to borrow $1,200,000 for improvements to Lowell Memorial Auditorium. Is there any questions or concerns about taking that out of sequence?
No.
Okay. Public hearing. To borrow $1,200,000 for the purpose of financing Phase 1 of the improvements to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium and any related architectural and engineering services in connection therewith and any costs incidental and related thereto. Second reading by title, to borrow $1,200,000 for the purpose of financing Phase 1 of the improvements to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium and any related architectural and engineering services in connection therewith and any costs incidental and related thereto. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the microphone and give us your name, please, and address.
My name is William S. Topier. I live at 208 Nesmith Street. I've been assigned by Mr. Costello to take care of the municipal minutia, so I also have to take care of the big things too. Mr. Mayor, since this is probably my last Frank Skevington moment, I'd like to digress. First, I want to thank the council for its strong support of the auditorium, and I want to congratulate Ann Barton on the outstanding job she did in this project. Chairman Costello and the trustees want to acknowledge the city manager. After receiving the bids, the manager unsolicited recommended an increase in the bond authorization, which assures that this building will be made safe from irreparable harm. His decision to recommend the additional $1,200,000 bond issue protects the integrity of the grand structure we have there. This bond issue does not cover and finish all the work that is needed. However, it does save the building from great harm by allowing the most important components to be upgraded. Lastly, I'd like to, during my last Frank Skevington moment, I want to tell the city of Lowell and the people of Lowell how fortunate we are to have Tom McKay and MCM managing the building. They have turned the building into a great venue. Besides that, they have put at risk their own money to bring great events to the city, and we should appreciate it. Any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Mayor Carfield, members of the City Council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Wish to be recorded in favor of this. This building is one of the jewels of the city, and it's been neglected for a while. It is now needs to be repaired, and I urge the City Council to approve this loan order. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to come to the podium and speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Council Broderick.
Move approval.
Move approval by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Rita Mercier. Any discussion? Yes.
Despite the fact that I think that Tom McKay did write that speech for Bill Topia, I do move approval as well.
I thought it was Jack Costello.
Any other discussion or debate? Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, I know that we did apply and receive a grant to offset some of these costs. Can you just refresh our memory on what that was? It's close to $600,000.
The grant was about $600,000, and the remaining portion of the debt associated with this, we've been working in conjunction with the trustees to analyze the income that would be coming in through the ticket surcharges that would, we're convinced from the analysis that's been done by Mr. Topia and the other members of the Board of Trustees that the funding necessary to service this debt would come from that without any impact on the taxpayers.
That's what I thought. Thank you very much.
Any other? Council Bill Martin.
But if I don't know if it was quite clear, but the state made a commitment to this renovation project, and the city agreed to match a certain portion of funds, and this is a portion of that match, correct?
That's correct. The
Right.
state made the commitment of $600,000, and
Right.
we were required to put at least $600,000 into this. But in fact, the work is much more substantial than that to preserve this building. So, but we did match the state money.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda. Public hearing. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Zoning by adding a new article of Article 4, Section 9.6, entitled Downtown Low Smart Growth Zoning Overlay District, and extending the existing Hamilton Canal District Priority Development Site. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium.
Your Honor,
Yes.
George Cielides Jr., for the record, 133 Market Street. And I'm here this evening in combination. We're co-proponents, I would say, with the city of the two measures that are before the council tonight, one relative to the smart growth overlay zoning, and the other relative to extending the current downtown municipal zoning boundary across the Hamilton Canal to the property at Jackson Street. I'm here this evening with, to my left, Lawrence Scheffner, who is the representative of Bank of America Development Corporation, Community Development Corporation, and that's BANC. She doesn't have the key to the safe, so it's not BANK. She'd like to be BANK of America, but BANC. She's still ready to spend a lot of money in the city anyway. And with her is Kara Cicchetti, who represents the Architectural Heritage Foundation in Boston. That's Kara right there in the green beside her. These two women have been working to the bone, literally, on this project. And I'll tell you why I say that. I left one other person out, Stephen Jonkers, who's down the other end there, who's been the consultant for them along the way in the city. And he hasn't worked himself to the bone, but he's done a lot of work. But in any event, by way of a little background, these folks bought the old CMAA property on Jackson Street and the Adden factory more than a year ago. And in the process went through a lengthy planning process with the planning department of how to best serve the city to develop this property. You're all familiar with it, I know, and because of your familiarity with the property, you know that the old CMAA building just is such a narrow building on Jackson Street, it's almost impossible to do anything with the building from a retail commercial aspect solely. And that was one of the things that I think hurt those folks when they tried to develop it, and God knows the city put a lot of effort into it and a lot of money into it at that point to support them. But in the long run, it turned out that, and we believe that as a result of their not being able to really put the whole thing together, and the entry of Bank of America and the Architectural Heritage Foundation, we're going to be able to put together a much better project for the city. I should just point out that this is 385,000 square feet of property, that we're dealing with. It's a huge project. And when we first started getting into this with the planning department, there were many different topics and many different ways of considering renovating and improving this property. And as we kept moving along, to the credit of the administration, Manager Lynch and Adam and the others, they rose and brought to our attention the Smart Growth Overlay Zoning Statute, which the state enacted a while back, 40R, the purpose of which was to encourage development and growth of housing in downtown in areas, and there are 3 criteria I'll just quickly hit them. Areas that are near, I've got to throw the glasses on, unfortunately, my old age, Alan. Areas near transit stations, areas near concentrated development, including town and city centers, and areas by virtue of their infrastructure, transportation access, existing underutilized facilities or locations, make highly suitable places for residential or mixed-use smart growth zoning districts. So any one, if we qualified under any one of these, we would be eligible for a smart growth zoning district. It's fair to say, and I think you all know, we qualify under all 3 in the city of Lowell. On that basis, the certainly very important aspect of this is, number one, the project goes through a single permitting process instead of dozens, or not dozens, I'm exaggerating, but through a multifaceted, so it's a lot faster. More important to the city of Lowell and to you, ladies and gentlemen in the council, lady and gentlemen, only one Rita, huh? We'll work on that. But anyway, I'm sorry. More important to that is that under this particular statute, if adopted, the city will be eligible for $200,000 in grants for what the state refers to as, and I'll find the exact wording here, it's like a zoning district incentive. It's an incentive to encourage you. This is $200,000 in free cash for your just adopting the smart growth district. Beyond that, there's an additional incentive of up to $3,000 per unit for every unit of housing that is developed on the site, with a minimum requirement of 100 units. We intend to do more than that in a phased method. We're going to start with 65 in the front building and deal with the others in the other building. That at $3,000 per unit, with just 100 units, if that's all we do, and there's a possibility we will do more, we'll get another $300,000 in free cash to the city of Lowell as an incentive for you to adopt this kind of zoning and to bring the residential into downtown Lowell. We brought this first to the planning board, as you know we're required to do in any zoning change, and we made our case and presented our case before the planning board and received a 5-0 unanimous favorable vote. I think you probably have that report. There are an awful lot of other things I can say about this, but I'm going to say this much. I don't consider myself an expert on the smart growth statute, although I learned a lot about it while I was going through this process. I'm going to give an awful lot of credit to the Department of Planning and Development, who, this included all of us going to Boston, the development team and the DPD, to meet with DHCD, to go through this very lengthy process with them, have these meetings, have versions of the proposed new zoning ordinance come back and forth. Mr. Proakis, I have to give him credit, did a fabulous job of working on this thing, a very difficult technical change to the zoning statute that's before you to be proposed, and he just, I can't say enough good things about that, but the whole Department of Planning and Development did a wonderful job too. And the fact of the matter is that on the one hand, I could say to you that would the project go on without a smart growth overlay adoption? If you didn't adopt this, it probably would. But what my clients want to do is they want to spend, in this case, almost $80 million in this new project. They want to spend $80 million, and at the same time, if they can do it in partnership with the city and have the city get some free money along the way to use for the good causes, and by the way, not to mention some more taxable property along the way. And I think you all know a very good possibility that the health care center is going to be one of our tenants in there. This is the classic. I was thinking today, you hear win-win or win-win-win. I think this is win-win-win 20 times, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not going to try to talk anything about the smart growth overlay, because I think at some point Adam and George are going to be available to tell you about that. But I and my clients are here to answer any questions that you might have about what our project is. But the bottom line is, of course, we're not here to get a permitting for our project today. We're here to ask you and encourage you to, in fact, adopt the smart growth overlay district and extend the downtown municipal district to our area. I'll be glad to. I think I should turn it over if I can.
I have to keep asking people who come to the podium in favor. Thank you, Mr. Elitis. Thank you very much. Those wishing to come to the podium to speak in favor.
Mayor Caulfield, members of the council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I wish to be recorded in favor of this. And one of the reasons is that I'm very familiar with the CMAA building on Jackson Street. From 1999 to 2002, I was on the board of the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association. And during the last 2 years, we tried to do some development of that building, retail space and different things, but we just couldn't do it, unfortunately. I believe that this project is going to go forward the right way because of the type of building that it is. And I urge that you approve this unanimously. I also noticed that on number 16 is a similar, an additional thing on smart growth, and I urge you to support that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else wishing to come to the podium, speak in favor, please give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Gail Frace. I live at 29 Tolman Avenue. In addition to living here in the city, I'm also on the Executive Council for the Merrimack Valley Project, which is a social justice project here in the Valley that's comprised of 34 different member organizations. And we've been interested in the Hamilton Canal District project because of the additional development of housing. We are excited about 40R because hopefully it will include affordable housing. And so I speak tonight in favor of this motion. Many of our members who are economically comfortable have discovered that their children cannot afford to live in the area. Others have come to the realization that if they tried to buy their home today, they could not afford to do so. So we are excited about this project. We know that smart growth includes, an 80% level, a 50% level, and a 30% level. And the Hamilton Canal District is not going to be developed in a vacuum. So as we go forward with this project, we'd like you to keep that in mind in the impact that gentrification in this area will have on the neighboring community, the adjacent neighborhoods, and that we hope that this will include both all of the 80, 50, and 30%. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come to the podium to speak in favor?
Mayor Caulfield, members of the council, I'm Stephen Green. I reside at 181 Market Street, literally across the canal from this project. I want to speak in support. I think this is an important step in the overall development of the other areas on the adjacent edge of the downtown. So I encourage you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come to the podium, speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to come to the podium to speak in opposition. Opposition? Opposition? The public hearing is closed. Before we ask the council for a debate or discussion, I will entertain a motion to accept the report from the Lowell Planning Board by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Elliott. All in favor of accepting that report and place it on file, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That report has been accepted and placed on file. What's the wish of the body? Council Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was summed up nicely. It's a win-win and potentially wins down the road here. And, you know, the next step in redevelopment over in that area, and the reason why the council went out on a limb and built a garage over there as a catalyst for this whole area. So I think it's a well-thought-out, well-planned, over a year here project, and it's going to be a win-win situation for the city and for that area in general. So I think it's a great plan, and I'm going to support it.
Council Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I think Attorney Elides did an excellent job summarizing the smart growth area. Is the Bank of America going to own this building? Is that, Mr. Elides?
I missed that, Councilor, I'm sorry.
Who's going to own the bill? Who's going to purchase the building? Is it the Bank of America? Are they going to own this building? Bank of America?
The Bank of America and the Architectural Heritage Foundation together will own the building.
Okay.
Right.
And it's going to be used for affordable housing?
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Is this like a first time?
In part. Yes. Well, available for. Right.
I mean, what percentage is it? The whole building for affordable housing? Is it a certain percent?
There are certain requirements, and I think maybe Adam or George could better respond to that. That's why I said in terms of the mechanics, the actual mechanics, Counselor, I think that they could probably speak to that better than I.
I believe there's a couple of questions. We can certainly speak to the nature of what's required under the zoning, but I think the developer can also comment on the fact that a sizable, the majority of the project will actually be market rate housing for the housing portion, and that a significant portion of the development will actually be commercial, not residential at all.
Okay.
That there's actually going to be a very substantial job creation component to this project as well. We've been focused on the housing during this conversation so far because that's what ultimately triggers the bonus payments that are associated with this particular zoning that we're doing. But the zoning also enables the commercial component of this project, and over a 400,000 square foot development, there's a sizable job creating commercial piece as well. But in terms of the affordable housing requirements, the Chapter 40R smart growth zoning requires that 20% of the units in the project be affordable at 80% of area median income. And the zoning that's been proposed and that's up for discussion tonight echoes that or mirrors that requirement. It does also provide a clause whereby the developer can be asked to provide a local preference to Lowell residents for that affordable housing. So if there are two parties looking for that affordable housing unit or units, and one of them is a Lowell resident, we can actually give them preference relative to one who is not a Lowell resident.
That's great. Now, it sounds exciting. It's we're going to be getting well over $500,000, $200,000 from the state and $300,000 from Bank of America. Is that correct?
Well, actually, the $500,000 is all going to come from the state. It comes in two phases.
Okay.
$200,000 upon adoption of the zoning,
Okay.
and then $3,000 per unit upon the issuance of actual building permits.
All right. And we plan on building more than 100 units? Is that
Yes.
at least 100?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, no other questions right now. It sounds like it's going to be a good fit.
Council Milonazo, then Council Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very exciting proposal. I actually had an opportunity to watch the planning board meeting on August 18th, and I do want to congratulate George Proakis. He did an outstanding job in really summarizing the zoning change that was before the planning board. The overall project in that Attorney Eliades and Adam Bakey just talked about is very exciting. Talking about the office space, talking about the new housing units, the fact that it is, assuming that it gets passed this evening, Chapter 40R will bring additional affordable housing into the community. I think I filed a motion a year or 18 months ago to have the administration look at Chapter 40R, look at Chapter 40S, and I'm very pleased that this is another example of a very forward-looking administration, especially the planning department, as it relates to projects like this. So I certainly plan to support the zoning change and really congratulate everybody involved, because, I mean, I really do believe it will be another key to success in that neighborhood.
Councilor Rita Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also am a member of NIMCOG, and when we discuss 40R and smart growth, it's very important, and it's well adopted that it's a good idea to have that, so I'm well aware of that. I'm just a little bit concerned about the parking situation with all those units there. Is parking contingent upon each unit, and would we be developing any parking in the garage for the people that will be living there?
Yeah, this project is actually only possible because of the garage. The developers actually came into the public hearings when this council was discussing whether to proceed with the garage, and ultimately recognized that they are responding to its presence. So.
And I'm so glad that I was one that supported it, because one goes hand in hand with the other, so I kind of knew the answer. I was just trying to feather my own cap to say that if we didn't have the garage, we wouldn't have these people here.
Well, we're
and
happy
I
to
want
help
to
you
thank
feather
you
it.
as well for being involved with it. Thank you very much.
Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Attorney Elides, just going back to the Lowell Community Health Center, how many square feet is it that they would take up of the plan? It's 60,000 or approximately?
Approximately 60,000.
Approximately 60,000, okay. Thank you.
And several, I neglected to say that. We're talking about several hundred new jobs in this area, very important. Some of them, of course, will move over from other areas of the city, but there will be many other new jobs that will be begun here or available. Secondly, we don't have any retail component planned here. This is all going to be residential and commercial for job purposes, and we're not going to be interfering with any other retail developments in the area there.
I would just like to echo the great work from the administration, the Lynch administration, DPD, Judge Elides, and the developer, and the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. And we have a 900-space parking garage, and we're wondering and worrying, how are we going to fill it? You just put a smile on my face, Adam, and it's going to change that whole neighborhood. And Lowell Community Health Center, just a great vehicle to reach out and help people. They just do a wonderful job. They're going to transform that building into something that's marvelous. And better than that, this is all beneficial to the city of Lowell. So, any other discussion?
Can I throw in 2 more cents? I'm sorry, Councilor. I just want to say this makes this administration and this city and this council makes my job so easy, because I can say for everyone to know that when this project first came to be discussed, I made an appointment with the manager, and I made an appointment with the mayor, and we brought the folks together, and they made it very clear from day one that Lowell was the place that they should be coming to, and Lowell's the place where they should be investing their money, and they made it clear that it was their belief that the type of project that they were talking about brought before this city council would be heartily endorsed, and that's what we're hoping for.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, either to Mr. Leidy or to the developers. What percentage of, did you say it was 385,000 square feet, this project? Well, what percentage of that is commercial, will be developed? Or total square feet? I don't need percentage, I'm just trying to...
A lot's going to depend on the market, which is why we're hesitating. In other words, we don't know right now exactly how much of it's going to be commercial and how much will be residential, because we just don't know what we're able to do. We think it's wonderful that we're starting with the healthcare center, the community health center, and we think that's going to be a beginning to probably some other development of a commercial nature there. So it's difficult. We have no fixed commitments at this point now, and I don't want to sound like I'm not answering your question. It's only because as developers, we know the plan we want to follow through in, and we'd like to bring principally more more commercial development there, but we're also sensitive to the fact that we must, under the smart growth overlay zoning, have at least 100 residential units there too.
So what is your first plan? What is the plan that's on
To
the
start
board?
with 65
Start with 65 residential units and just the 16,000 of commercial development up to this
Correct.
point?
Correct, that's our first step.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead, Lauren wants to.
If I might.
This is Lauren Scheffner from BANC, Bank of America.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that the CMAA building is almost entirely vacant right now. Unfortunately, we're trying to get construction started there as soon as possible. The building commonly known as the Adden Building, the Adden Furniture Company is a tenant in that building at present, and there's still some uncertainty about their use of the building going forward, whether they'll continue to occupy all of the building, a portion of the building, and so we're working with them to understand their timeline and needs. And that's part of that building is 300,000 square feet alone. Right now, we could see anywhere from a 50-50 split of that building, residential, commercial, to something slightly different. So the timing is, the planning process will be a bit longer for that one.
Up to 60 units, what does 40R say? What's the criteria that we need for affordable housing? What percentage is it? 20% right off the bat?
So as Adam said, the 40R requirements are for a minimum of 20% of the units to be affordable at 80% of median income.
Right.
So for 65 planned units, that would be 13 units.
Okay. Ed, do you have any idea what those units at the market rate units will be being sold for? Any idea, ballpark figure? What we're looking at?
These will be rental units for at least an initial phase of the project. I do know I have a sense of what the 80% incomes and rents are for Lowell, and those can range depending on household size. Again, this is the maximum, but anywhere from, very roughly, $45,000, $50,000, $55,000 household income, and rents, $1,100, $1,200, even $1,300.
And those
depending.
you're referencing the 13 units of affordable housing, correct?
Yeah, those are the maximums.
Maximum.
Now, depending on the units and the market, it can be different than that, but that's the maximum income and rent that we would be able to see in those units.
And I also, I'm sort of leading up to, want to follow up on the parking. When you get tenants to sign, is there an agreement you're going to have with the city, or is it, you got to get your own parking, or, we just want to, we've had some issues in the past with some development up there that we're still trying to sort out, and just want to make sure that this is being addressed beforehand. And
Part of our proposal is to enter into a written agreement for the parking spaces with the city. And I don't know, do we have a fixed number yet? I don't think we do, but.
I don't think we do. Certainly, this is a city with a lot of precedent for residents using public parking. So we would look forward to working on an agreement that's appropriate and acceptable.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It does sound, I guess you answered one more of my questions, and I had anticipated that the building was vacant right now, or primarily vacant, so it is a good thing to have this development come to that section of the city. I just have one more question for Mr. Bakey. Adam, why just the Smart Growth Overlay District, it's just in one particular section? Is the statute require each individual project to adopt this overlay district, or that's the best approach from the city perspective? Why in the jam plan? Are we going to have to, should another project, a good project come along, do we have to go back to DHCD and amend the jam plan, or on a project by project basis?
Well, this is, as I believe everyone here is aware, this is the first time that the city of Lowell has explored this zoning technique, and we felt it would be presumptuous and perhaps a mistake to dive into it with a large
Okay.
district somewhere.
Right.
It would be better to see how it works out
Try
with this
this.
particular project. And if it works well for us, we definitely have some other possibilities in mind for other properties that might benefit from it. But we really feel we should test this one out first and see how it works.
Okay, I agree. Okay, thank you for your answers. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Council Broderick?
Thank you. I think it's important that we note that this is just for the vote to create the district, and that this whole project will have to run before the planning board and ZBA for the parking and number of units and all that. So it sounds like it's still up in the air, but that's all got to be ironed out through the planning process. So this is just a vote to create the
It's a first
district.
step in a
Right.
good direction.
Right.
Before we take a roll call vote, I want to recognize Steve Jonkus over there, who worked tirelessly also on this project. Any other discussion or debate? Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield,
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin. Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you.
We thank you very much.
Moving on with the agenda and the public hearing. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance by extending the existing DMU zoning to include 31-1 and 31-2 Jackson Street in Lowell. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium with 5 minutes or less.
Tough for a lawyer, Mr. Mayor, tough for a lawyer. Actually, it isn't, because here's exactly what I'm going to say. Ditto to everything I said with regard to the other part of the project.
Anyone else wishing to come to the podium and speak in favor?
Mark Goldman on Oakland Street, Lowell. I also wish to be recorded in favor of this. I spoke at the hearing before the planning board a week ago yesterday, and this just complements the previous vote that you just did. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to come to the podium and speak in favor?
Mayor Caulfield, members of the council, I'm Stephen Green, reside at 181 Market Street, and I want to be noted as being in favor of this project and say this is just another extension of the appropriate zoning for developing a sensible downtown and the development in this particular area. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to come to the podium, speak in favor, in favor, in favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to come to the podium, speak in opposition. In opposition, in opposition. Public hearing is closed. I'll entertain a motion to accept the Lowell Planning Board's recommendation by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. All in favor, signify by saying aye. The report has been accepted, placed on file. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Arman Mercia, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin. Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Moving on with the public hearing agenda, and the last article on the agenda is a conduit location. Verizon to place 35 feet of conduit on Rita Street. Come to the podium, please. In favor? Would you like to speak in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, my name is Joseph Gleason, right-of-way agent for Verizon New England, Inc. Our office is located at 28 Diana Lane in Drake. Point of correction relative to the petition before the body tonight. It's actually, the petition was originally scheduled for 80 feet.
80
of-
feet, yes.
Have
I'll
you-
make
Okay,
that-
all right.
yes.
All right, I will speak to 80 feet of
On the
conduit.
agenda, it's 35, but on the article I have, it's 80 feet, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Verizon is seeking permission of the City Council for construction of approximately 80 feet of conduit at the extended end of Rita Street here in Lowell. There's it looks like a 5-lot subdivision. I was down there this evening. I didn't see 5 house lots there, but my plan shows 5 lots. I know it's several new homes are going in at the end of Rita Street. And what Verizon needs to do is extend service from an existing pole, 1102/3, located on the southerly side of Rita Street. Verizon leads to place approximately 35 feet of conduit in a westerly direction from that existing pole to Lot 5. And then what we're going to do, because it's a cul-de-sac there, we're going to run the conduit across the street to the intersection of the lot lines at Lot 1 and Lot 2. That's a 45-foot street crossing. So 45 and the 35 feet altogether make our 80 feet request. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? 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 Public hearing is closed. Referred to the wire inspector by Council Rita Mercer, seconded by Council Milonazo. All in favor, signify by saying aye. It's been on its way to the wire inspector. Moving on with the agenda. We have a communication from City Manager requesting approval of out-of-state travel. I believe there's 8 requests. Any discussion, any debate on this particular issue? Council Rita Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I don't have a problem with accepting all 8. And every time we have a request, it always tells us where the money is coming from. But with the library, it's not telling me where this money is coming from. It's only $319. It's not the point about the money. It's a question of where is it coming from. Is it coming from a special line item in the library or out-of-state travel? Or
We have an out-of-state travel line item in the manager's budget that will be coming from.
it's coming out of your budget?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any more discussion, debate? Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Article 10 on the agenda, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expend a grant from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in an additional amount of up to $7,243 for the continued employment of staff as well as funding for various supplies, furnishings, and equipment for use by the Council on Aging. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Arman Mercia, seconded by Council Bill Martin. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expend a grant from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in an additional amount of up to $7,243 for the continued employment of staff, as well as funding for various supplies, furnishings, and equipment for use by the Council of Aging. Any discussion, any debate? Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Article 11 on the agenda, authorizing the city manager to execute lease agreements with Jean Dock Credit Union for the operation, maintenance, and service of financial transitions terminals located at the Pauley Songus Arena, Lowell High School, Lowell Senior Center, and first floor lobby of Lowell City Hall, and further authorizing the Lowell Arena and Civic Stadium Commission to execute a lease agreement for the operation, maintenance, and service of financial transactions terminal located at the Pauley Songus Arena. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. The second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to execute lease agreements with Jean Dock Credit Union for the operation, maintenance, and service of financial transactions terminals located at the Pauley Songus Arena, Lowell High School, Lowell Senior Center, and first floor lobby of Lowell City Hall, and further authorizing the Lowell Arena and Civic Stadium Commission to execute a lease agreement for the operation, maintenance, and service of financial transactions terminal located at the Pauley Songus Arena. Any discussion, any debate? If none, roll call.
Excuse me. I do.
Council Rita Mercia.
I just have a couple of questions, and I don't have a problem with who got this or whatever. In fact, they're a wonderful bank. They provide a great service to the community. I'm just asking, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, did this go out to bid or whatever? How did they establish this?
Yes, Councilor, this did go out to bid. We had a number of financial institutions that submitted proposals. They were reviewed, and this was the most advantageous proposal, the most lucrative for the city. One change that we did make here that I guess we should note is that we combined all of our ATMs and that we have in city facilities, the Songus Arena, the high school, the city hall, and then we added the senior center, believing that that would give us the best mass of ATMs to get the best possible bid price for the city.
And the city got something for this?
We receive, it's detailed in here, the amount that we receive from each transaction and the
Oh,
cash that
from each
would come.
transaction.
That's correct.
And how long is this for?
I believe this is a 3-year.
3-year. Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Council Elliott?
Approximately how much will the city derive from these transactions? Or how much did we derive from the previous contracts?
It's a $10 a month rental fee, plus there's a schedule for per transaction. The other thing that doesn't necessarily jump out is a substantial amount of this particular bid went into the value of the bank that is at the high school. So all of the costs associated with maintaining, fitting, equipping the bank at the high school is all factored into the lump sum figure. So it was actually a substantial bottom line figure that was submitted by Jeanne d'Arc Bank.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
And also, I believe that next time around, none of that will be factored in, and so it will be a straight dollar figure as we go forward through the bidding process in another 3 years.
Can you tell me what we derived in the last contract with the last bank?
I'd have to get that number for you, Counselor. I don't have that off. I could tell you that this is the one that gave us, with the review of all the bids, this was the one that gave us the highest amount per transaction, and but I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion, debate? Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Present.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Present.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes, I'm here.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
7 yeas, 2 present.
Okay. Moving on with the agenda, Article 12, vote declaring surplus of property of 1769 Middlesex Street, Lowell, Mass., and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the disposition of said parcels, namely 1769 Middlesex Street, Lowell. Second reading by title. Declaring surplus the property at 1769 Middlesex Street, Lowell, Mass., and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the deposition of said parcels, namely 1769 Middlesex Street, Lowell. I would wish that, I'd like to delay the vote on this until the next council meeting and give the neighborhood traffic subcommittee a chance to convene a meeting and give the residents of Middlesex Village a chance to voice their opinion on this particular matter. So, as Councilor Rita Mercia?
I'll second it.
Second, you have to make a motion first. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just to send it out to a public bid, this piece of property, similar to what we've done with all other pieces of property. However, there has been a number of meetings held because this particular piece of property is sought after by the Walgreens or proposed Walgreens development,
Right.
correct? There were 2 appraisals on this. This is a minimum bid that we will accept, $350,000, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, I don't have any difficulty sending this to the neighborhood subcommittee. I think their neighbors have a number of concerns, primarily related to traffic. I know I attended one of the 2 anyway, so I support the motion, but just want to let people know this disposing of this piece of property, well, it's a public process, but the RFP does state that the disposition of this would be in conjunction with the appropriate zoning, and the zoning over there currently is commercial. Is that right, Mr. Manager?
I believe so, yes it is.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to delay by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Elliott. On the motion, Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. I'm going to support the motion to delay. I think it's always a good idea to get more information and let people have an opportunity to find out what's going on. But as far as the $350,000 minimum we have, if there have been appraisals, if we could get a copy for that meeting. I don't know if this, what they're basing the appraisals on, you know, the use or specific, whether it's a proposed Walgreens, which sounds like it's going to be contentious maybe, or another use, as far as, is it going to, I guess what I'd like to know is it going to impact the value of the land, and the value of the disposition, what the city might get, so we can kind of analyze all that together. I think if we get the appraisals to take a look at that for the meeting.
We will provide the appraisal to the council.
I believe Council Kazanjian is the chairman of that neighborhood traffic subcommittee. And Council, would you have a meeting so we could come in with a report for the next council meeting? And
We'll set something up for the next Tuesday, not this Tuesday coming up, but the following Tuesday.
Okay.
The same day as the
Thank you.
city council meeting.
Thank you.
I'll set
Thank
it
you.
up.
Thank you very much for the council's support on that question. Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, the Article 13, authorizing the city manager to apply for, to accept and expend a clean energy choice matching grant from the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative to develop a greenhouse gas emissions inventory and subsequently a climate action plan for the city of Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Jimmy Milanazzo, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to apply for, to accept, and expend a clean energy choice matching grant for the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative to develop a greenhouse gas emissions inventory and subsequently a climate action plan for the city of Lowell. What's the wish of the body?
Approval.
Move approval by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Lindsay. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Rahman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Article 14, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to request approval for the following plan changes to the Jackson, Appleton, Middlesex, JAM Urban Revitalization and Development Plan as amended from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to request approval for the following plan changes to the Jackson, Appleton, Middlesex Urban Revitalization and Development Plan as amended from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. What's the wish of the body? Oh, I'm sorry, Mark Goldman would wish to speak. Sorry.
Again, my name is Mark Goldman, on Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. This matter came before the planning board a week ago yesterday, and I spoke in favor of it then, and it passed on a 5-0 vote. The Planning and Development Department had their hearing last night, which I also spoke in favor of this. So I urge the City Council to unanimously vote in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any discussion, any debate on this particular issue? If none, roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Rahman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, Article 15, authorizing the city manager to file a formal proposal with the Interagency Permitting Board designating 38 Prince Avenue as a priority development site pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 43D. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Lindsay, seconded by Councilor Alan Kazanjian. All in favor of the waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to file a formal proposal with the Interagency Permitting Board designating 38 Prince Avenue as a priority development site pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 43D. Any discussion on this particular? Councilor Elliott.
Could we just get an explanation from Mr. Backey? I appreciate the fact that we're applying to the state to do something with this building. That's, that's really should be applauded. But can you just give a quick description of what this, agency or this application is for and what it will do?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilor. This is part of the state's Priority Development Sites program, and essentially it's a partnership between the state and the local governments If the local government agrees to designate a parcel that it feels is an appropriate location for economic development and agrees as part of doing that that all discretionary permit applications will be heard within 180 days and a decision will be issued within 180 days. That decision can be no, by the way. It doesn't have to be automatic approval. We just have to issue a decision within 180 days on any economic development project that proposes on that site. In exchange, the state will give it priority for all sorts of discretionary grant programs, and also the state's economic development agencies will prioritize their marketing of such sites. The city presently has a similar designation, was voted by this council for the Hamilton Canal District, and this would basically be the second site in Lowell that we would get on that short list of priority state sites that they're going to focus their attention on.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? If none, roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Present.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
Moving on with the agenda, Article 18, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to request approval for the following change to the Jackson-Appleton Middlesex Urban Revitalization and Development Plan as amended from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Broderick. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to request approval of the following change to the Jackson-Middlesex Urban Revitalization and Development Plan as amended from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. What's the wish of the body? Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that the planning department, as well as the zoning board and the planning board, have been very, very busy, as you can see. I mean, they must be happy that this week is over because everything that's before us has to do with them. So I just want to commend them for a job well done because they really worked very tirelessly on all this. I just wanted to say that. Move approval.
Councilor Milonazo?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Move for approval by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Rita Mercia. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Present.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
Subcommittee reports. Councilor Broderick.
Do we have one more?
We have one more.
We have finance and
I'm sorry.
taxation.
We have one more ordinance?
Yes.
I'm sorry. We have one more article on the agenda. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 7 thereof entitled Finance and Taxation. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Rita Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Full reading has been waived. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 7 thereof entitled Finance and Taxation. That will be going to the public hearing September 9th. Any discussion on that? Yes, Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Manager, Madam Auditor, can you just explain what this is about, $100?
Essentially, this is some Mr. Mayor, Councilors, this is some modifications to our ordinances with relative to procurement. I'll have Mr. Moses detail the meat of the changes.
Currently, anything over $100 doesn't require
It
you're going to
requires
the
a
auditors?
purchase order. This specifically addresses what the state calls micro purchasing,
Right.
under $100. And it would enable somebody to pick up a part for $9.99 at Home Depot and come back and get reimbursed.
Okay.
Right now, we'd have to execute a purchase order and pay for it that way.
Okay, thank you.
This will be going to a public hearing September 9th, and the council can certainly weigh in at that public hearing. Now, moving on with the agenda, subcommittee reports. I'm sorry about that little mix-up. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two. One is we had scheduled a clerk auditor oversight subcommittee to finish, I hope, the review process we started back in February, March. But there was another, the pay-as-you-throw subcommittee with the joint subcommittee scheduled at the same time, so the clerk and the auditor graciously bowed out, and we've rescheduled it for next Tuesday at 5 o'clock in the council chambers. So I thank you for your patience, and hopefully we can wrap it up next week. And the second was one last Tuesday at 6:30 we actually had was the Personnel Subcommittee met on Councilor Jim Malinazzo's motion to begin the process of the review for the city manager. And what we set out to do was come back and make a recommendation by way of a motion to accept the tool we would use to evaluate the manager. As we know that, and get some direction from the solicitor's office in terms of what the process should be legally, because we have a city manager who's under contract. There's also an ordinance, and we've been informed that the contract is controlling, and we first, by motion by, I believe, Councilor Bill Martin, was to take up, to use the former evaluation tool used for prior city managers under the ordinance due to its familiarity, and it is a very in-depth evaluation that will provide a lot of feedback. So we, by unanimous vote, decided to bring that forward for a vote for the from the entire body to use that as a tool to evaluate the manager, number one. And then the second part we took up was to establish what the process should be. And we asked the solicitor, and she put in our packet a memo outlining the process that a couple of processes that we could undergo to get to the end result of an evaluation. What we need to do pursuant to the contract is set goals and prioritize those goals, and they should be attainable within a one-year period, and then reduce them to writing. In line with that, Council, I believe Jim Malinazzo made a motion to ask the city manager to come forward with another report, presentation, if he likes, establishing what his accomplishments have been, what he thinks the goals should be, prioritize them, and for the council to be able to analyze that and move forward, and for the council to reduce what they believe should be the goals and priorities for the upcoming year to writing. And that's the important part of it. And then there was the issue of a possible salary adjustment came up, and there are two ways to address that if the council so wishes. One would be by amending the ordinance, and that's a simple vote to amend the ordinance. The second would be by amending the contract, and opinion from the solicitor, the legal opinion would be that amending the contract would probably be more simple and probably clearer and easier to amend the contract to contain all of the details of employment, as opposed to continuing to go back and forth between a contract and an ordinance. So the motion recommendations by way of motion were to go forward with the evaluation using the evaluation to the manager's performance appraisal used in prior years, and to come back with for the city manager to bring forward his what he believes he's accomplished, and what he thinks the goals should be, and prioritize them, and then for the council to review it and come up with its own list in writing and priorities and evaluate the manager. And if that's accepted, then we can move forward and schedule the next subcommittee and hopefully complete the evaluation.
Councilor Broderick, Chairman of the Personnel Subcommittee, has brought a motion forward for the council to adopt the recommendation they brought forward on evaluating the city manager. Any discussion? Councilor Malinazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Broderick did a very good job summarizing the Personnel Subcommittee meeting. Again, I don't know if all of my colleagues have a copy of the manager's performance appraisal that we used a couple of years back, but I know that the solicitor's office can certainly get us copies of that if we don't all have a copy of that. But the subcommittee did vote to move forward by motion by Councilor Bill Martin to use that performance appraisal, as Councilor Broderick had indicated. In addition, we should probably get a copy of the written goals that we did receive from Manager Lynch last year, just as kind of a starting point, so that as he comes forward, assuming the recommendation of the subcommittee gets approved by the full council, as he comes forward with his goals for this year reduced to writing, and then we, as a body, we'll prioritize those in conjunction with conversations with the city manager. We can probably use those goals that were brought forward last year as a starting point, as I said. So again, overall, in my opinion, the Personnel Subcommittee is moving forward to begin what I think is an important step to evaluate the city manager.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mayor. What do we try? We try just to do an evaluation for the manager, or we try and do this to evaluate for a pay raise? What are we trying to
I think the gist of the motion brought forward is to set up some guidelines to evaluate the manager, and that was a motion brought in by the Personnel Subcommittee. You can evaluate the manager, but then you have to set some standards of what the pay raise might be or what they're looking for. So,
Is that the motive here to...
Councilor Broderick, would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, I think it was Councilor Milonazo's motion, but
Right.
I believe the purpose would be to do the evaluation because we have to by contract, and I would assume part of that would be, is there a pay raise or not, and how much, and if it's going to be, as the unions do, but we're going to do it for the remainder of the contract, or are we going to change the ordinance or do nothing? But I assume that would be part of the evaluation. Is any evaluation, you'd evaluate the salary.
Right. Again, the intent of the motion, if I could, Mr. Mayor, the intent of the motion was to begin the evaluation process that we need to do as a body of the whole. So, again, to answer Councilor Kazanjian's question, I mean, my intent was to get the evaluation process started.
Do evaluation, it's just evaluation progress, and that's it?
No. Again, it's going to be up to the full board. Once we go through the appraisal, if you will, if we decide based upon how well, and again, this is just one councilor talking, but how well the manager has performed, based upon the contract, would he be entitled to a pay adjustment? And again, the majority of the council would feel whether or not he would be entitled, and we would work through the solicitor's office to do, I guess, would be a contract amendment, which is her motion, or I'm sorry, her opinion tonight is that the cleanest way, if we get to that point, would be through a contract amendment.
Mr. Mayor, I know we debate this now. Where's it go from here if it does go forward?
The Personnel Subcommittee, have you brought forward a draft on how the evaluation would be presented and so forth?
A draft of pay raise?
No. The evaluation process.
Yes, I had hoped that would be in the packet, but it's going to be, I assume we can get one.
Maybe if you could furnish the council with
sent to
that
us,
draft,
yeah.
and then we could.
It is the appraisal process or evaluation tool that was used for prior city managers.
Right. That's a good idea. We'll get a copy of the instrument that was used before.
I was hoping it would be included with the letter, but it wasn't, so I apologize. We can make sure, I hope, maybe the clerk can get copies of this out to everybody.
Fine. Councilor Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, the intent of the motion I made at the subcommittee was to evaluate the manager using the same evaluation instrument that we've used at least since I've been here, which goes back 2 managers, and to begin that process. So that's the recommendation of the subcommittee, to start that process, distribute the forms to the councilors, and do an evaluation. So I think that's our recommendation. Now, as to Councilor Kazanjian's question, I think the natural result of all that, you know, a lot of us here have had employees. You give them an annual review. At the end of that review, it's a catalyst for whether there's a pay increase or not. So I expect that will be a discussion that we will have here. But I think you can't do one until you do the other. So, and also I think, at least by ordinance in the past, I'm not sure exactly what the contract says in this point, we've always done that in September. So the timing's right. I think the solicitor might want to weigh in on that. But the manager's contract was up, I believe, in August, before we did it in September. So I think this is the time of year we typically do this sort of thing.
But in all due fairness to Councilor Lindsay and Councilor Kazanjian, they weren't here during any evaluation periods, and they don't really have a draft in front of them. So
this is all brand new to me.
So I think it'd be wise that we all get the copy of the draft of the evaluation, and probably we can go from there.
I think that's why we wanted to establish, we had the initial meeting to establish or make a recommendation as to what to use so that everybody could get it, review it, and spend some time preparing, because it is, I don't know, 7, 8 pages long and very involved. So I think we need to get this out to everybody, so that everybody has some time to do the evaluation. And it's not something that, I would recommend can or should be done the evening of a meeting. So I think we need to, basically the motion is to use this because most people here, I don't really have any experience with it myself, but most people here do have some experience with it, comfortable with it, and will be able to probably go forward with it more comfortably in this process, and then take it from there. If there's a pay raise, if there's not, that's maybe step 2 or 3.
And those evaluation, that process will be televised to the people at home, beyond the
Correct.
viewing audience, yes.
Yeah.
I believe Solicitor O'Connor?
Thanks. I was just going to add to Councilor Martin's point. The contract itself doesn't specifically set a timeline for the meeting between the council and the manager with respect to the setting of goals. The ordinance, however, historically always had, and it was in September, and I think that's generally what had been followed along with last year by the manager. As far as the form that is used, it's the same form that had been used in the past. And I think historically, the way that was always done was that the clerk would then provide the council with a copy of that form, the performance evaluation that would be used. And again, the contract itself does require an annual setting of goals in writing between the manager and the council. So.
Okay. Councilor Mercy, then Councilor Milano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I understand this, the next process is the evaluation of the manager. At the end of that evaluation, it could trigger a request for salary increase, but it isn't mandatory. So if you evaluate the city manager, you listen to his goals, and you give him a favorable evaluation, and I usually do it by voice vote, because I don't put nothing down in writing, that doesn't necessarily mean it automatically gives him a pay increase. To answer Mr. Kasanji's question, Councilor Kasanji, 2 processes there. One of them, you evaluate the city manager first, tell him what kind of job he's doing, and how he met the goals. That's number 1. That could, however, trigger someone to make a motion to amend the contract to give him a salary increase. Am I right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
It's not required. However, the contract does also specifically contemplate salary adjustments.
Okay.
Okay,
I just
Councilor Rita
have-
Mercier?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city solicitor. Why is a performance bonus not acceptable? What is the problem with that?
Actually, it's not that it wouldn't necessarily be acceptable. That would be, that could be up to the council as a whole. One of the things that we had discussed at the personnel subcommittee is because you have a management contract and because statutorily these contracts govern everything, they supersede any sort of local ordinance, the council could decide to do, say, a performance-based stipend. It could decide to do a percentage increase, or it could decide not to do any of those things. But certainly nothing would necessarily be off the table. I think that would be something that would be discussed amongst the council in the event that you decided that an increase was warranted. Then the mechanism and what it is and how it's done could be decided amongst the council.
Second step.
Councilor Milanese?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, could you get a copy of your written priorities that you had given us, your goals that you had given us last year as kind of a starting point? Because as was stated, both Councilor Kazanjian and Councilor Lindsay were not here last year to review those. And if I could just remind the council, what we did do last year as a result of that effort that we did go through was to extend the contract through 2010, I believe, but without a pay raise. There was no pay adjustment given last year. Again, where this all ends up, it's anybody's guess at this particular point, but again, the reason for my original motion was because according to the ordinance, we need to begin this time of year. And I'm very comfortable using the performance appraisal that we used or had been using over the last few administrations. So,
So the first thing for the council to do is to adopt the recommendation by the Personnel Subcommittee to start the evaluation process. We'll set a date for that evaluation and continue, and through that process, a motion probably will be made to give the manager a set increase, whatever, then that's a debatable issue that the council will weigh in on. Is my complete understanding with that formula?
Very simple.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, we have a motion from the chairman of the Personnel Subcommittee to adopt the recommendation brought forward by the Personnel Subcommittee. It was a unanimous vote. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then the evaluation process will be under your wing, Council Broderick, and see if we can set a date with the manager, and we'll start that process. Okay? Any other discussion on that issue? Go ahead.
If I could, maybe try and contact people to find out what's an available date, because I'm sure everybody's going to want to participate. I don't want to just select a date, so if maybe I can get people individually for dates that people are available, and let's say mid to late September, so we have 2 or 3 weeks for the manager to put together his information, and for the councilors to start start thinking of what they want to, how they want to handle it.
It's very important that every council receives that evaluation formula.
I think it's important that we get from the clerk or whomever a copy of the evaluation tool, the performance evaluation, and also last year's goals and priorities the manager presented to us, because they were verbally adopted. And this year what we need to do is reduce them to writing. We have the tool established to do that, so I think that we should, to evaluate the past year's performance, we should use what was given to us and what was adopted by us, and then and go forward and set them up for next year. But I think Councilor Rita Mercier's question and Councilor Armin Mercier, that basically from the solicitor, I think we got is that a performance or any raise is not mandatory. We're under a contract here. The contract specifically, it states that we should address it, but it doesn't say it's mandatory based upon performance or any other measure. But it also does not say that we can't give it. It basically says it needs to be addressed, so it's open. Right. It's open and would have to be addressed in some fashion, whether it's a zero or whatever is determined.
Very well put, Council. Any other discussion on this issue?
Well,
okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like to be a little bit consistent. Try to be a consistent person. I did not support a contract, so I cannot amend something I didn't support. So keep that in mind. Not to say that the manager's not doing a great job. I think he is. We will discuss that further when the time comes.
Well, that's why I think there's 2 options. You can do the ordinance.
And I don't write anything down and form a paper trail. I judge this man every single Tuesday. That's my opinion, and I've been doing it for 13 years, and I'm not changing because something says we have an ordinance. I didn't support the contract, and that's my opinion.
I would just like to echo the feelings of Solicitor O'Connor. I think if you're going to do anything, the most sensible and easy route to do is amend the contract. Because you amend the ordinance, you're going to have to have a public hearing, and you'll require 6 votes. So keep that in mind.
Mr. Mayor, if I could...
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to read that.
What's that?
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to read that into this.
Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Rita Mercier's point, I don't think the contract says that we have to do a written evaluation, but we were supposed to reduce into writing the priorities and goals going forward. It doesn't mean that you have to sit down and fill out this form and hand it in. You can give a thumbs up or down, however you want to evaluate. It's just that we're supposed to provide the manager with priorities and goals that are prioritized and attainable, so that there's a measuring tool going forward as well. That's all. It doesn't mean you have to fill this out, but people that want to use it as a scorecard or to give the manager feedback in areas that he's strong or weak. That's all. You don't have to fill this out to evaluate him. But we, by contract, need to spell out what the priorities are for the goals. That's all.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other subcommittee reports? No others? Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Tuesday, we had a subcommittee on the arena. Present was Dana Skinner from the university, Craig Gates from SMG, Mr. Ciceri from the Devils, and also the administration was there. I wish I could say it was a productive meeting. We asked pretty much the same questions, got pretty much the same answers. We know, and I'm getting a report from the auditor this evening, and when we first started off, the arena revenue was $1.4 million. In '08 was $303,000. I mean, we've got well over $1 million deficits, $1.4 million, and we talked about their marketing goals, and they've promised they're going to do this, promised they're going to do that, but it's just seemed the last 7 or 8 months that I've been here, it's the same story, and we know the place has plenty of potential. It's just, I don't think that the both companies, and I'm not blaming Mr. Ciceri or Mr. Gates, they're only, their hands are tied and dealing with multi-million-dollar companies, and I feel that these companies aren't allowing them to do the proper job. And in turn, who has a shortfall as the taxpayers, and we're the one paying the bill. We've got $1.5 million deficit, or $1.4 million and some change, and it's just not fair to us as a city and the city taxpayers here. And I'm really looking forward to working with the university, and hopefully we can work something out as far as possibly selling to the university and let the university take over and get rid of this almost $1.5 million deficit, and take it away from the taxpayers. They don't have to have this endure this cost any longer.
Anyone else would like to weigh in on that subcommittee report by Councilor Alakazandjian? Any council like to weigh in on that report? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Madam Auditor, for the report. Can I just ask you a couple of questions on it? One is, the management, Mr. Gates did indicate that they haven't accepted the $100,000 fee, and according to this report, they haven't. Is that right? Is that correct? It hasn't been paid out?
2008, it has not been paid out, no.
2007, has it been paid out?
It was paid out.
And why is that? Because they haven't achieved the goal in the contract?
It hasn't been sent down to me for
Okay.
payment.
Well, which is a good thing. I guess my point is we just wanted to know that it hadn't been paid. But can I go to the first page, the arena analysis that you put together? And this is very helpful, by the way, because it's a good snapshot that what we all knew is taking place. The arena is bleeding, and the enterprise fund consistently has to go back to the general fund in order to to raise the deficit. And in FY08, we're looking at a 1.4 deficit, correct?
No, that would be if we had not subsidized. The current deficit is $596,000.
Okay, so but the general fund subsidy is an additional $800,000, correct? To be raised on the tax levy?
833, correct.
I mean,
Correct.
so where we think, I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. It doesn't. It's either free. It either comes at the end of the year, but we have to put this up front in the levy, correct? That's what Department of Revenue says.
Yes.
So to date, from '99 to 2008, the levy has had to subsidize the arena approximately $8 million.
Correct.
Does that include debt and interest? Principal and interest?
No, that is actually paid out of the fund itself.
It is?
Right. So
Okay.
that's part of the whole deficit. It's charged to that fund, so
Okay.
it's not an addition to.
So if we added that debt, can you tell us exactly what that outstanding principal and interest is on the arena?
I do not have on me right now. the
Is it
current
approximately
balance.
$2 million, $2.5 million, $2.5 to $3 million that is still owed on the arena, Mr. Manager?
That's correct. If I could just follow up, though, Councilor, Ms. Wright, the $8 million number that's provided there, that does include the debt service, doesn't it?
It's in there.
It's in there,
It's in
okay.
there. It's in there.
It is in
It's
there.
not
That's-
an addition to it. It's
Right.
part of, it
That's-
gets charged to the fund.
That's what I,
Right.
because the
Right.
operating losses is cited here, but then when you factor in those, the principal, and it's just, and that's the fund, so that's what my question was, so I thought it was. But, the bottom line is it's still $8 million, and we still owe $2.5 million, and I think that's why we continue to have these meetings. And the Devils and UMass, they're all doing their share. They're trying to make, they're trying to do the best over there. One motion that we did make was to have the Devils, because there is an incentive clause in the contract, that was the latest contract, was that they provide to us their financial statements for at least the last 2 years since the new ownership took over, and I would like to get a copy of that, because that will tell us, at what threshold are they making money, and what are they including. It's supposed to be gross sales, and if you look at tickets, that'll include advertising and concessions. So I think it's important, and we did ask the Devils representative for that information, and he wasn't sure whether we could get that or not, or would be released from the Devils. I think from the city perspective and the taxpayers that are funding this arena, I think it's their obligation to provide us that information. So I'd look forward to that information. But it doesn't seem like we're making any headway in generating additional revenue, or we're trying to cut some expenses, but I think we have to take some take some strong measures, and maybe look at the university and see what agreements that we could come up with, because the general fund cannot continue. We can't continue to sustain these losses. So I'll look forward to to that information and further meetings. Or I know Mr. Manager been in negotiations with the university and other entities to to really provide come with some solution to this to this financial problem. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. I know we asked the question at the subcommittee, Mr. Manager. It's how are you making out with the university, with the chancellor? Have you getting more communications with them? Have you talked? Maybe you can explain to the full body that what.
Well, essentially, as I presented to the subcommittee that night, and I think I reported to the full city council the week before, we've been having discussions, the chancellor and I have been having discussions for a few months now on some ways in which we can make the arena more effective, both for the university and for the city, and less of a drain financially. We're looking at a number of different options that really run the gamut of how it makes sense for the university to utilize the building, whether there's another way to operate the building without the university, whether that somehow makes sense for the city. So we're really looking at every different option. The chancellor has asked that we do that, and I certainly am interested in doing that as well. I am optimistic that based upon my most recent meeting with the chancellor, where we went through a number of different scenarios, that in the very near future we'll have some ideas that we can bring to the city council, and with the ways that the university and the city can work more effectively on the arena.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilor Lindsay, then Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And those ideas that are being discussed, do we have to wait until the contract is in effect with SMG before we can start talking candidly about those, or?
No, I mean, we can. The contract is essentially done with SMG. The Arena Commission met just the other day, and we were just finalizing some issues on that. And this is really separate from the SMG issue that we would have.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. You answered my first question. I was going to ask when I think we had voted to send the contract to the full council to debate it. The other one was just by way of a little bit of caution. If we have you going to negotiate some other, whether disposition or contract or some other agreement relating to the arena, we probably ought to be careful making public statements on what we feel should be done with it. I don't think it's going to be a real strong bargaining. You're going to have a real strong bargaining point if you have all your bosses saying, hey, dump this thing, it's a loser. So I think we need to be careful here in coming out with these. I mean, we need to. It's a fine line. We have to find out what's going on and watch it, because it's bleeding. But I think we have to be careful making statements, and we also have the issue of jurisdiction. I think hopefully the contract, when we get it and we review it, puts us in better condition. It's not going to solve all the problems, and I think everybody here sitting here would like to erase the $1.4 million that it's currently costing us. But I think that, you know, if we're going to do that, to do it the most effective way we can, we have to be careful in terms of what we saying, you know, how the public perception is from the council.
Manager Lynch?
Councilor, I couldn't agree more. I think that it's important that, because when we talk about the arena and just the terms that we're talking about it right now, it's clearly it's costing the city money, and I know that the council feels this way. I've certainly stated it publicly that it's something that just isn't sustainable. However, I think you know, Councilor Kazanjian has described it as having a tremendous amount of potential. I think it does have a tremendous amount of potential, depending upon how it's utilized, and that part of what the Chancellor and I have been discussing is pretty much brainstorming different ideas of how that could be a more effective venue for the city and for the university. And I think if we're able to make that happen, then it's certainly its value to one or both go up dramatically. So I appreciate your comments on that, and I think that, again, I'm optimistic that we'll be able to come back to the City Council in the very near future with some ideas of how we can make that happen.
Okay, Council Milonas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I couldn't agree more that we need to keep this discussion in focus. We need to do our best to get the $1.4 million off the back of the taxpayers. But my question is, it's the Arena and Stadium Commission, is it not? So as we go down the path and begin to negotiate on the stadium side of things, we may, and again, I'm not sure what that will actually do to this number, but we may have some, and I certainly hope we'll have some positive results as a result of those negotiations going forward. And then if we keep SMG's feet to the fire and they start bringing more business into the arena, this number will continue to improve. We can't lose sight of the fact, in my opinion, that the arena is obviously an economic engine for the city. We did have reports that were done by the Greater Lowell Convention and Visitors Bureau, the impact that this does have in bringing disposable dollars into the city. We voted tonight $1.2 million to, work on the roof at the auditorium after we had already voted another $1 million and change to continue with the public improvements there. Absolutely needed, and we all supported it. We also vote every year to support the auditorium. I think it's $500,000. Again, taxpayer money, which again, clearly is something that we all support and is important to do for this community. But I think what we need to do, as Councilor Kazanjian has stated through his subcommittee, is keep this in focus, do what we can to eliminate the $1.4 million, and hopefully, with looking at it as a total package, Arena and Stadium Commission will be able to make headway to reducing that 1.4, hopefully eliminating the 1.4 and developing some positive cash flow for the Arena and Stadium Commission.
If the council is finished with the debate and report, we have a resident, Patricia Stanton, that would like to discuss this issue on the subcommittee report.
Hi. I have some suggestions for the
Can you
Songus
speak
Arena.
right into the microphone?
Yeah. I'm not so tall, so I'll move it a little bit.
5 minutes? or less.
Sure, no problem. My suggestion would be the Paul Songus Olympic Training Center. I think this would bring in a lot of jobs into the city as well as income. Summer programs could be brought in also. I'm sure the arena could probably have some hours in the summer that would be available, since hockey is not played in the summer usually. And as well as early morning programs that could also bring in more income to the city from people outside the city that would probably be very interested in coming in. Would bring in also income to the businesses that are already here and the businesses that will be coming into the city. They could be using, the restaurants and things like that. If the parents were to bring their children into the city from other areas, I'm sure the other businesses would flourish as well. I talked to someone about possibly, and I don't know if this is something that the city would be interested in doing, but maybe going after some federal community block grants. I don't know if that's a possibility. And also, as that maybe as a last resort, what I've been hearing tonight is that there is money coming from other businesses that are interested in coming to the city. So possibly with the money from that as well as income that could come in from the arena, I think it could be a win-win situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no more discussion on this particular subcommittee report, I'll look for a motion to accept the report as report of progress by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Lindsay. All in favor of accepting the report and placing it on file, signify by saying aye. The report has been accepted and placed on file. Do we have another subcommittee report on refuge? And Council Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Neighborhood Traffic Recycling Subcommittee met with the Environmental Subcommittee, a joint subcommittee, to continue the discussion. Actually, it was a meeting held in reference to the ordinance, waste and recycling ordinance, that was forwarded to the joint subcommittee, and that was held Tuesday night. And a number of issues surfaced from the prior subcommittee meeting. This has to be sent to a public hearing anyway, but issues came up in the ordinance of concern were, first and foremost, the time frame that residents would have the opportunity to put their trash out. The prior ordinance indicated it had to be done the day of pickup, and there was consistent agreement across the board that residents be allowed to put their trash out the night before for a number of reasons, logistical reasons. Secondly, discussion focused on, there's a section of the new ordinance called the scavenger ordinance, or scavenger section of the ordinance, that prohibits people from going through neighborhoods and picking through people's trash. So that particular ordinance will stay intact. And another item that was discussed at the meeting was illegal dumping, and rightfully so. That has been a concern from the subcommittee, both subcommittees, for quite some time. But as was reported by the manager, TJ, as well as Gunther Wellingstein, there is a significant amount of importation of trash that is taking place in the city, and there is a section in this ordinance relative to trash importation, and fees will be assigned. Other issues that came up, again, was just a general discussion on the new proposed solid waste and recycling system. The time frame of education and outreach, notification process. This ordinance also includes an advisory committee that will be put in place as a result of the new system. So those are the issues that took place. Again, on illegal dumping, I actually have been out on a number of occasions with Allied Waste, and the supervisor indicates that illegal dumping is taking place at this particular point in time. And he feels there's an average of 3 to 4 what they call move-outs, where tenants move out and leave mounds and mounds of trash, anywhere from a half a ton to 3/4 of a ton of trash. 3 to 4 dumpings, or illegal dumpings as he calls them, and that's not per route, and there are 7 routes in the city. So there's a significant amount of illegal dumping taking place. Construction debris is also another major problem, which is contributing to the essentially $4.6 million deficit that goes on the tax rate that taxpayers are absorbing. So that's how we got to this point. This is just a report of progress, because this ordinance has to go to a public hearing to be scheduled. So just a report of progress, and it was a good meeting. A lot of issues were explored. There are going to be some concerns, some logistical problems, if you will. The manager did report that there'll be a number of inspectors, not new inspectors, but that'll be transferred from other sections of the health department to specifically focus on this when and or if it does put in place. So, excuse me, that's the last item that was discussion on the number of units and the concerns where the problems may take place, and those are the 6 units and above. Currently, the ordinance, and it was changed back in '92, for curbside pickup, that was increased from 4 units to 6 units. And I believe the motion, Mr. Manager, was just to refer it to you to take a look at scaling this back to 4 units because of, the potential of illegal dumping and the difficulty in writing citations if there were some violations and people weren't abiding by the new system. So I think that is a recap of a lengthy meeting that took place, but I think we can, as we continue to weed out these issues and trying to focus on, if this is adopted, compliance and enforceability and fines and things of that nature, it'll be successful. So that's a report of progress, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. It was an excellent report, and I just want to caution the council that this will be going to a public hearing, so don't be looking for radical changes at this point in time, so just be cautious. Councilor Rita Mercer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At that subcommittee meeting, we voiced a lot of concerns. We had heard from a lot of people through phone calls and letters and such, and at that time, expressing our concerns, we in turn received a new revised ordinance. And I want to just state that in section 9.7.2, with the time, the place, and location for curbside collection, it states, with the exception of bulky items, CRTs, and white goods, curbside collection shall not be put out earlier than 7 p.m. the day before the collection. So for the people viewing this city council meeting that were concerned about putting your trash out the night of the morning of the collection, it was impossible to do that. You can put it out no earlier than 7 p.m. the day before the collection, which I thought is a good improvement. But through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city solicitor, and I don't know if this should be included, maybe not, any verbiage outlining the discount for elderly? I don't see it in here. Should there be or not? I don't know. Is there? I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Maybe there is. Is there a section here for that?
Section 9.42.
9.42. Oh.
Abatements.
That's the abatement section.
9.42. Okay, good. That's good. All right. And should there be any fee established for white goods in this ordinance or not? I don't see that either. Maybe it's here. I probably missed that as well. But because I don't know how much it'll cost.
Page 5, 9.5.3, white goods.
Okay, wait a minute, 9.5.3, white goods.
That has to do with
That
the
would be-
fine.
But it's telling us that
But-
we'll be fined $25 if,
Right.
but it's not telling me how much it's gonna cost me. It's just saying
There's-
call and make an appointment somewhere.
Right, there's a,
Okay, I just
I was
wanna,
gonna say, I believe that's actually in the fee schedule that has been voted on separately.
it's a separate fee, separate vote for the fee.
Yep.
It's not included in the ordinance
That's correct.
then?
It's a separate ordinance.
Okay, that's fine. All right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. Very diligent work that went into
Yes.
this.
Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a related matter regarding fees, do we currently post our fees, Mr. Manager, on the website, on the City of Lowell website?
I do not believe we do. I think part of that is our goal, once we get the codification process complete, is that, because there are a number of fees here in the city, that they would be posted on as part of the code.
Okay.
We're hopeful that that will be done in the next month,
Okay.
a couple months.
Okay. I guess,
But it's
you know,
something
just
to
picking up on
it's something to
Councilor Mercia's
explore.
point, I
It's
think
something to explore.
Okay.
We would have I believe we have the fees at various points in on the website, so that if you had a particular issue that's solid waste related, for instance, you'd go into the department solid waste division and be able to find the fee there.
Okay.
But we'll double check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Mercer, do you have any? You're the man of wisdom on the council. Anyone else would like to weigh in on this? Councilor Elliott?
I just wanted to acknowledge, we did receive a letter from Mr. Barry, and it's under petitions. And I I think he makes some very valid points, and I think a lot of the discussion that focused the other night, and since this issue has come up, is the illegal dumping. And interestingly enough, we did discuss the 6-family units where there is a concern, and it's a valid point that right now there's no incentive for tenants to recycle or to limit to the provisions of the existing ordinance, and it is going to be a challenge. The manager, Mr. McCarthy, did indicate there's approximately 300 6-family units in the city, so it's or split. So, I think it's important to note that there are some valid points in here, but
Councilor, I just want to caution you that we should probably save that for the public hearing, that discussion.
Okay, well, it hasn't been sent to the hearing yet, so I figure we could make. Well, I just want to acknowledge there are some valid points in this petition that has been submitted.
No other discussion. I'll read the ordinance. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, as amended by replacing Chapter 9 thereof entitled Garbage and Refuge in its entirety and inserting a new Chapter 9 entitled Waste and Recycling. This will be going to a public hearing September 9th. All in favor of sending that to a public hearing September 9th, signify by saying aye. It's on its way to a public hearing. Any other subcommittee reports? Any other subcommittee reports? All right, moving on with petitions. Miscellaneous Attorney James Hall, representing Karen Tassis family, requests to rezone 19 Columbia Street from traditional single-family to rural residence. Referred to the manager and the law department by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. The second petition is by Brian Barry, 52 Clark Road, opposition to pay-as-you-throw trash fees. Referred to the manager by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Third petition, Thomas and Richard Underwood request change zoning 26 and 28 Lawrence Street from TMF zoning to DMU zoning. Refer that to the manager and the law department by Councilor Lindsay and Councilor Kazanjian. All in favor, signify by saying aye. It's approved. Petition by Daniel Kuchar requests city to repaint crosswalks, Appleton and South Streets. Referred to the manager by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Yes.
Bear with me. My wife was murdered 2 months ago, and my good friend Lisa McManus helped me put it through. It's none too soon because the school started, and the elderly are there, and I was hoping to see maybe some crosswalks painted up by the store. Not so much that they're needed, just to slow these people down. Please, people, consider, just slow down a little. The fast pace of this world. The city's beautiful, and I'm hurt.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd like to add something. I'll be all right.
Is that a cigar or cigarette you smoke?
It ain't lit. This ain't beer. I went to the Worth and got a soda water and lime and lemon.
Okay.
Okay, I wouldn't drink it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can I just say something? There was a guy here, Mr. Eager. He was eager to speak, and he spoke. I'm on Social Security.
You're going to have to stick right to the petition you brought forward, sir.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. A petition from Juan Sanchez, 193 Fletcher Street, requests handicap sign, referred to the traffic engineer by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Ahmed Mercia. Article 24, pole location, National Grid to place one pole on Chippewa Street, hearing September 9th. Move for approval to send this to a public hearing by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. And we have two claims to property damage referred to the Law Department by Councilor Bill Martin, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercer.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to, number 19, I'm going to vote present on that.
On Attorney James Hall?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, record the minutes as Councilor Kazanjian voting present. Oops, sorry. Motions. Motion by Council Rita Mercier and Mayor Caulfield, request the city manager revisit the previous motion to file legislation which would make available the same death benefits for all city employees as those available to public safety employees, seconded by, I'll second the motion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back sometime last year, we as a council had a vote to increase the death benefit for public safety city employees who died in the line of duty, to increase the death benefit from $10,000 to $15,000. That vote did pass unanimously, as it should have. But at that time, I asked that we look into the possibility of increasing the death benefit for every city employee who dies on the job in their respective line of duty. I gave it ample time to digest, but nothing seemed to happen. I know we have to file legislation to do this. It is my firm belief, with no disrespect intended to the public safety employees of this fine city, that anyone employed by this city that dies while on duty, be it the land and building employee who is painting a building and falls to his death, or the city roofer carrying 90-pound paper, has a heart attack and dies, is the school teacher that gets punched in the head and dies, is the school nurse or the DPW worker who gets stung by a bee and dies while performing his or her duty. Their life is important as a public safety employee. Their risk is not the same, but a life is a life, and a death while on duty is a death while on duty and should be treated fairly as another. I made this motion before, I made this motion today, and I will make this motion until this rule and the laws become fair to everyone. This situation is not frequent, thank God, but when it happens, I believe we should act fairly in this matter. That's my motion.
Any discussion on the motion?
So if we could look into seeing how do we go about changing this
Think
legislation.
you might have to file a home rule petition with the legislature. Mr. Manager Lynch?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, we will revisit this, and I know we did some work on this when you introduced this motion. I have to go back and look at the report that we provided, but let us do a little bit of work on that. We'll get some information back to you. The mayor is right; it would, in all likelihood, require a home rule petition. And we still have time coming up for the new, they're out of session now, but we would file in time for the next session.
This isn't something that happens every single day, thank God, but...
Or every year. Oh, thank God.
So I'm not saying that we're going to break the city or whatever, but that's my idea.
Councilor Kazanjian and Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a great motion. I think if it's good for one, it should be good for all of them. So I'm going to support it wholeheartedly.
Councilor Elliott?
I was just going to ask the solicitor exactly what the process or procedure, what does the current statute say?
Well, actually, the only thing on the books relates to fire and I think police, definitely fire, and that's what the council had voted in. But I think the only reason actually nothing happened, I think I was actually supposed to get back to the council with some information, and so I'll get right on that. Sorry, I apologize.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Manager Lynch. And maybe also, could you see if there's other communities that might have something similar to this, or give us a guideline. Moving on with the agenda, a motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager to have the police investigate the enforcement of jaywalking violations. Seconded by everyone, I think. Councilor Elliott, on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Wednesday, August 13th, I had the occasion to visit with the Chamber of Commerce, who had recently joined forces with the DLBC, which is the Downtown Lowell Business Committee, with concerns and questions pertaining to the downtown. And at that meeting, one of their major concerns had to do with jaywalking that takes place quite frequently. While inquiring in the Traffic Bureau Division at the police department, I learned that there's no tickets per se with a category for jaywalking, although there is a citation of a $200 fine to a driver who does not yield to the pedestrian in the crosswalk. which is understandable, and I even have a ticket showing me that they did issue a ticket to a person that did not yield to a person in a crosswalk. It's a $200 fine, and I saw the man, and I mean, not the man per se, but I saw the ticket, and he got it issued, and he did pay it. But what if the shoe is on the other foot, and the pedestrian walks out in front of the driver who is not in a crosswalk? Where is the driver's recourse? There is an ordinance on the books, but there's no ticket book that carries the designation called jaywalking. There is an ordinance and a very minimal fee, by which I have it right here. It was $1, but in 1993, they amended it and said that this ordinance shall be punished by a fine of not less than $20 nor more than $50. It could be $1,000 if there's no book. Where are we going with this? So if we could just, I don't know, but once someone is issued a ticket and fined for jaywalking from a proper ticket book, the fine should be paid at City Hall, where the money goes back to the city, not the courthouse. I'd like to refer this motion, if you're not have enough already, but we have it to the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee to get the ball rolling to see if we could do something about this. And I think the chief has a pet peeve with this as well. So I know it's Councilor Kazanjian has enough on his plate, and I'm adding you another.
I don't think that, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I don't think it belongs in that subcommittee. I think it belongs in the public safety.
Public safety? Okay, well,
It's
the
a public safety issue. It's not a neighborhood issue.
And it's a disturbing issue.
Yeah.
And it's
but
escalating.
It's public safety.
I thought it was traffic and, but
Would you
but I don't
want to refer
care.
that to the public safety?
Public
subcommittee?
safety is fine. I just thought it was a traffic issue, and here's the ticket that a driver receives when they don't stop to let a pedestrian cross, and that's a $200 fine. And I just think that the shoe could be on the other foot, and they don't have a leg to stand on, or what have you.
Council Broderick, then Council Lindsay.
Thank you. It's a good motion to investigate. Could we also get a report in terms of how we'd enforce this? You know, obviously we want to, this is something that's dangerous and can cause problems, and the more traffic, foot traffic we bring downtown with the build out of the Hampton Canal, this is probably going to become more and more of an issue. But I think we ought to figure out if there's a way to enforce it, because they have police officers running around giving tickets. You know, are they going to grab IDs from people on the scene, and are these going to be against their driver's license or motor vehicle at the registry? I don't need an answer tonight, but if we could get that information as well, I think it's important to find out, you know, someone has to pay a ticket for a moving violation, or else they can't renew their registration or their license. But for a walking violation, I don't know if they can necessarily tag someone's the motor vehicle or their registration. So, you know, we want to make sure that we have some teeth in this too as well. Thank you.
I say that there'd be an incentive, Mr. Mayor, if we could find that person and they go take a walk down to City Hall, since they're out for walking in front of people, take a walk down to City Hall and pay the city. And you'd get a lot of money in here. We could afford my next motion that's coming up.
Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can't wait. The thing about it seems to be a lot of the students from the high school, and I think maybe that would be a good starting point, is if they addressed it over there. And it is dangerous, and it is frustrating, and it does disrupt the traffic flow, especially on Merrimack Street, because I think the students seem to walk much slower than the average citizen when they are doing this jaywalking. So I think it's a good motion.
And I've noticed where the younger people who have just brazenly walk right into the middle of the street without even looking. And it's amazing they're not hit by a car. It's aggravating to the point where it's really a real safety issue. So this motion, anyone else want to discuss this motion? This motion will be referred to the Public Safety Subcommittee.
That's fine.
And everyone will have a foot to stand on.
That's fine.
All right, moving on with the agenda. By Councilor Rita Mercier. Motion, City Council requests the city manager to identify and bring forward an appropriation to purchase 5,000 City of Lowell pins. Seconded by Councilor Mayor Kaufman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are many times when school children come to City Hall and visit, and it's always nice to promote our city in many ways. One such way was the issuing of a pewter pin, which consisted of a view of the City Hall with the American flag in the background. Visiting dignitaries were always appreciative when they received one as a memento of having visited our fine city. Well, it has come to my attention that we have about 35 pins left in this whole building, and that on September 19th, there will be 6 visiting dignitaries from Russia, and they will be visiting here, leaving our stash at 29 pins left. I have passed out on everyone's desk a picture of a Chinese man who is wearing one of our pins at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, China, while attending a soccer match. The pin is attached to his shirt. I circled it, and someone from Lowell presented 2 pins, one to this gentleman and one to someone else, so our pins have traveled around the world. I have included prices from Eric Lamache in the Veterans Office, who has investigated another type of a pin. If I showed you the picture of the United States flag, the Commonwealth flag, and our city seal, so there's another pin as well. I know I'm not asking for too much if I want 5,000 of both, but or maybe 2,500 of each. I don't know, whatever we can get. And Michael Palia in the mayor's office has researched the price and the quantity, et cetera. I will also give you this, Mr. Manager. It would be an idea with the American flag and the state flag from Eric Lamache. He included that. So if we could see what we could do, and I know it's probably too much to ask for both, but it would be marvelous to promote our city in that way and offer that memento.
I believe the similar pins we have now, the cost is approximately 69 cents apiece, 70 cents. And this mayor has handed out many of them, but the Veterans Office has, and it's a goodwill issue, and many visiting dignitaries who have come into the city, they're thrilled to get that pin. And that Chinese athlete was thrilled to wear it.
And it says Lowell, Mass on them, too. You know, I'm very proud of my city, and so I will give you the price list of the research that Michael Palia did. Sure, thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, the motion carries. The next motion is Councilor Broderick. City Council requests the city manager to have the proper department look into a crosswalk or crossing assistance for the elderly at the senior center, seconded by Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's a great motion.
Thank you. I received a phone call from an elderly woman who takes the bus over to the senior center and also to Market Basket and Brooks Pharmacy. And the concern is that the crosswalk, I believe, is down at the intersection, which is where they typically are placed. But with the traffic, the high volume of traffic, and the use there with the senior center, the pharmacy, and the supermarket, there was an ask to see if something can be done. I know typically you don't put a crosswalk in the middle of a road. Mr. Backey was kind enough to grab me and say that maybe we can do something, talk to the LRTA about the bus route actually going through the senior center parking lot. I don't know if that's possible, but some type of solution that might make it easier, especially as the winter comes. It's quite a lengthy walk, carrying bags, trying to get across that street. It's like that old the frog game, trying to hop across the street, the video game. And it's a very busy street, and you know, you can see it being a problem, especially as we come into the bad weather, and you know, you have a person trying to carry bags and scoot across the street, and could cause a problem. That's basically it.
The great motion, Councilor. Councilor Rita Mercer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have made that motion some time ago, many, many times, and here's the story. The city has to follow the state codes, and the state law says that you, because I had the same request and the same motion, you have to follow state codes, and it says that from corner to corner with an indentation then you put a crosswalk across. You cannot put a crosswalk where there's an indentation on one side but not the other. I don't know why we can't make it happen. We can make this motion happen if we just cut out a little portion of the curb cut and make it an indentation, and then you can put a crosswalk, because you have to go ADA, and when you do and put a crosswalk when there's a curb in there, you're alerting that person in a wheelchair or one of those motorized vehicles that because there's a crosswalk that signifies a curb cut, and yet there isn't. So you couldn't put a crosswalk there, because I tried to do both and you just couldn't do it. I don't know why we can't get DPW in-house to take a portion of that curbing out to make it an incline ADA accessible, and then put a crosswalk across the street. It can be so easily done.
Manager Lynch?
I would ask the council, assuming this passes, which certainly it seems it's going to, that we'll certainly explore every option to see what possibilities are out there to deal with the issue that's there, and that may require some construction. As Councilor Mercia says, it's not as simple as just painting the crosswalk. It does require some other issues. We'll take a look at it. I think it's certainly something that is worth consideration. Okay.
Because people are going to the Market Basket, crossing the street, and there's no crosswalk there, there's no indentation there. So really, that'd be an excellent motion.
Okay.
And it can be done.
Oh, Councilor Kazanjian, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I know what Councilor Rita Mercer is talking about. It has to be made for handicap accessible, and there's a certain grade of the ramp, but she's absolutely right. There's no reason why we can't do it in-house with DPW with very little expense, so I think it's a good motion.
Great motion, Councilor. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The next motion on the agenda is by Mayor Cobb. Any objection to me reading this motion for him? The City Council requests the City Manager to investigate emulating the City of Boston and Mayor Menino's relative to providing fuel assistance, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. I witnessed on the TV where Mayor Menino has brought forward a program not only helping the elderly and people with fuel assistance, but businesses as well. And believe me, I don't expect the city to get involved with any monetary value, but I did have this put in your packet, and Mayor Menino has this program. And Mr. Manager, maybe if you can just look at it, and maybe we can assist people working with CTI or other agencies, that people who are going to be strapped for fuel this winter, this probably could help them. And Mr. Manager, I'll give you this. Thank you. Any discussion on the, yes, Councilor Martin?
Well, I just put in a plug for the CTI program. They do run a very good program, but it's their funding is not nearly enough even in past winters, so it's going to be even less so this winter. Right. Sometimes they can barely help someone get half a tank of fuel. Right. I mean, but certainly we should try to do everything we can to do more, and working with CTI, I think, is a good approach.
Right. And Mayor Menino's approach here, he has incorporated with National Grid. The National Grid is willing to come forward and help out, so maybe they can come and help us as well. Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. I totally agree with you. It's very important, especially for a lot of the elderly people and some other people that are just getting by, and the fuel cost is just astronomical right now. If we can kind of like put it on a website with this information and get it out to people so they get educated and find out what avenues they can go and what they're entitled to.
Any other discussion on this particular issue? If not, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The last motion of the evening is by Mayor Caulfield. City Council requests the City Manager to have the proper departments make necessary improvements to have handicap ramp at the corner of Central and Middle Street meet ADA requirements. Seconded by Councilor Martin. I'm just going to give you a little history on this handicap ramp. And I discussed this with Manager Lynch, and I can understand where he's coming from as well. There's a vault underneath the sidewalk, but the problem here is the handicap ramp is so steep that people who traverse on that ramp in a wheelchair had the tendency of almost flipping right over. So the handicap ramp is actually more like a detriment than it is a help. So, Mr. Manager, if you could just look at it to see if we can improve it. Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's the one in front of the bank?
Yes.
So, I mean, I've had this complaint when I was the mayor, and you're right, it's really just doesn't meet standards. And if at that time, I think, what we were told was we're going to wait to redo the vaults and the downtown work, but I don't know, that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. So I think if there's some interim measure we could take, it's really heavily traveled. There's a lot of handicapped people in the tower above the bank, and this any improvement would help.
Thank you, Council. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. The motion carries. Before we adjourn, I have just a little bit of housekeeping to do. We received wonderful news this morning. There were approximately 140 high schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And a Boston magazine printed the top 50 high schools in the state. Lowell High School was 25th. And that's saying an awful lot when you look at all the high schools throughout the state of Massachusetts. And a great deal of thanks should go to Bill Samaras, the staff at Lowell High School, the school committee, the superintendent, and so forth. It's not an easy task. If you've ever been over at Lowell High School during lunch, it's almost like Filene's basement. And they deserve all the plaudits that's coming their way, and hopefully they can continue the great work that they're doing there. Also, on August 18th at Lowell Memorial Auditorium, I had the wonderful experience of attending the U.S. Air Force show Tops in Blue, and it was absolutely magnificent. There were 2,500 people in attendance, and the fee for the show was, there was no cost at all. So I just want to give that a plug, because the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, there were many venues there that are free to the public, yet they have to pay out of their expense custodial work, lighting, and so forth. But I think the height of the show was our good friend, Councilor Armin Mercier, who the comedian who came out to kill some time while they made changes, and I never laughed so much in all my life. And Armin, you were just a great sport. And the comedian asked, "What is your name?" And he said, "Armin." Well, they used that word throughout the entire show. And Michael Paglia was brought up on the stage, and they said, "What's your name?" He says, "Armin." So it was a wonderful experience. The U.S. Air Force show, when they come up to us and they told Councilor Mercier and Councilor Armin Mercier, what a beautiful facility, what a wonderful city you have here. And they received at least 3 or 4 standing ovations, and rightfully so. They were just marvelous. They had 1 hour of sleep. They traveled from Hampton Beach to Lowell. They have to set up the stage, break down the stage, load the truck, and the next night they were performing in Springfield. So the mayor's office is sending citations to every one of those performers with some pins. So that's the gist, but you sometimes you're so close to the forest, you can't see the tree, and you wouldn't believe the audience, and the people in the audience were from all over the state of Massachusetts. So I was very proud and happy. I know Councilor Armin Mercier was, and Councilor Rita Mercier was too. Councilor?
Just elaborate a little bit. When that lady come down to see me, she said, "What is your name?" I says, "Armin Mercier." "Okay, Arnold." She goes up on the stage and she says, "That's calling me Arnold," until we kept correcting her. So that's why the name Armin kept been playing all night, because she thought I was Arnold.
Yeah. But
It's a good show.
The talent was magnificent. You couldn't, that show, they could have easily received $65 for that show in New York. It was magnificent. And these U.S. Air Force cadets are in that show for 1 year. They travel all over the world, Europe, Southeast Asia, Iraq, and so forth. And God bless them. They just entertained, and they were just wonderful.
She had a manila envelope like this, and she was pretending she was Minnie Pearl, because the next part of the acts were supposed to be country music, so she was like Minnie Pearl with the price tag. And she said, "Armin, do you know that I have ESP?" So she says, in here are the answers to the questions that I'm going to ask you. I already know what you're going to say. So she says, Armin, do you know what I'm thinking? And Armin says, no. So she reached out and it said, no. And then she said, Armin, think of an animal with 4 legs. And he said,
Dog.
He said, no, you said...
Cat.
You said cat. He said cat. She said, Armin, come on, let's get on the same page here. So he finally said horse. So she had a picture of an animal that could have been a horse, a cat, a dog, anything else. So she says, Armin, when you go to the store and you go for cereal and you reach for that box of cereal, what kind do you get? Now I'm thinking Cheerios. Armin says Cheerios, and I'm thinking, wow, that's just what I said. So she says, absolutely. So she pulled out the thing, and it had a UPC seal, and she goes, that is from a box of Cheerios. So it was really funny. But then she turned it around, and it said Cheerios. So you did a great job. I'm proud of you.
I just want to thank all my colleagues for this evening's meeting. I think we got a lot accomplished, and there's a lot on our plate. And Manager Lynch.
Mr. Mayor, just one announcement I have, and actually you brought this to my attention earlier in the meeting, which I think was brought to your attention by someone from the LRTAs. Many people know the University Ave Bridge closed earlier this week, yesterday. A recommendation came to us, though, that the mayor passed on that we will be implementing. As many people know, Aiken Ave, the bridge, the Willette Bridge, is made two-way, or it has been made two-way at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to move that up to 2:30 to make the dismissal of the Lowell High School a little bit easier. So we'll be making that bridge one-way at 2:30 in the afternoon as opposed to 3. To make it easier for people to get across out of that. It will still end at 6 o'clock and go back to 2-way at that time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. And an employee of LRTA called me and said, can you bring this? And I brought it to the manager, and he said that we're going to do it. So it's going to escalate the traffic out of the city much faster. So, and without anything else said, motion to adjourn by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. Thank you very much.